you can throw things. I'd like to, everybody would stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance.
Sometimes I regret going to seminary and having everyone know about it. Heavenly Father, give us grateful hearts for the food and company, and especially for the men we are honoring tonight for their service to their profession and the community at large over many years, providing the rest of us with wonderful examples, not just of how to work and live with integrity, but to enjoy each other's company along the way. In Jesus' name we ask it, amen.
A song which we can all sing along, and we have the music masters, Sue and Lydia Evans. But we lost Lydia, she was captured. Oh, okay. I turn it over to Lydia.
There are song sheets on your tables. We'll start with God Bless America. Please join me.
On your tables, we might be a few short our kazoos. I would like you to make sure that I had to order the kazoos and
David, sit down.
He wants to see it over. So we're going to sing For They Are Jolly Fellows first. And if you need to tune your instruments, tune them now. But after we're done singing, then we'll do a round with the kazoo. Any drummer is asking which end.
This is for you, Phil.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to not be an honoree.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's the keg of prune juice? I was telling Brooke. They are jolly good fellows, for they are jolly good fellows, which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny. For they are jolly good fellows, for they are jolly good fellows, for they are jolly good fellows.
Your Honor, good Rick.
very nervous I couldn't eat or drink for this meeting very much. Should have had more drink part. I would like to, I did have a little note here that Salino and Barnes sends a warm welcome. They have a new phone number, 666. They're here to have a good time and to honor some members who've been at least 40 years and some a little bit longer, to share their wisdom. I'm giving 6 CLE credits, unaccredited of course, to everybody who's here tonight who sends in their money to me. And I would like to ask them to stand after I mention their name, and then we'll hold our applause to the end, if you want to applaud, of course. Most of you will, but you know, if you're not going to, make sure to shine. The honorees here: Richard Whipple, Arthur Bailey, Anthony Spann, the Honorable Joseph Gerasi, Charles Hannum, Lucian Ledestra, Dalton Burden, Richard Slater, Doug with the 40-year-old jacket, shut up. John Selstrom, Charlie Loveland, Ron Malin, Bill Foley, the Honorable Willard Cass. When Judge Cass comes, you know we always have to start after sundown. Sam Price Sr., Marty Idzig, Warren Erickson, and John Plum. Congratulations. Here tonight, myself, Dale Robin, and Billy, who's over there in the corner. Can I ask for volunteers?
I'll help you.
Okay, Rob, you're another volunteer.
He's a runner.
Okay. They each get one of these, all the honorees. So make sure you
Oh, we
raise
have
your
to
hands.
remember who they were?
Have them raise their hands.
It lasts for 40 years?
Choosing, but earlier this evening, 3 wise men on camera showed up here. They brought that. I would like to introduce the judges who are here with us this evening. Good time, meet everybody at the end. After we meet, we have an issue here. We did have, the bar is supposed to be open until 7:30, so we'll call them out and make sure that you don't get cheated out of that. We have the Honorable Paula Ferraletta, who graces us this evening. I found something very interesting. As you know, the kazoos are for you to take home. We're not using them again. When I was up at the kazoo factory getting the kazoos, there was a nice woman there, and she asked, "Is Judge Fiorello going to be at your affair?" And I said, "Well, how do you know her?" And she said, "Well, she's very famous up here in Erie County, and especially in Eden." And she said, in the Seneca language, Fiorello means kazoo, keeper of the kazoo. Probably didn't know that. coming next year to Chautauqua County. So that we're seeing the trailer now, but it's going to happen, I guess, at Honorable Deborah Chines. We have the Honorable John Ward with us this evening. He was the judge you saw trying to stick signs outside into the asphalt. The Honorable Stephen Cass. If you would like to say anything to Judge Cass, you've got to have one of them machines that scans itself, you know. The Honorable Walter Dredd did sign up. Does anybody see him? I know there was a conflict between Judge Dredd coming here and to the National Bail Convention. The Honorable John Lamacuso did make it. He called me earlier today, and he had signed up plenty of time 3 days ago. But he did not quite know if he could make it because the man was coming to repair his atomic clock, which was running 2 hours too slow. We're going to lose a judge. But we're not really going to lose him. We never lose a judge. They're always out there. It's been tried. Never happened. Judge Dillon, who's graced us for a number of years and who is here this evening. Pacer will be missed. They couldn't decide on what to eat, but they finally did. It tastes like chicken. And we do have I have a little going away present for Judge Dillon. Excuse me, we're going to keep the bar open, right? There was a lot of crying out here. There are a lot of others here, so what I'd like to do is just to go, if you haven't been introduced, doesn't mean you're not important, but you're not very important. So we'll go around the room quickly. We'll start at this table and move counterclockwise and just ask you to get up and tell us who you are.
Dale Robbins.
John Furlito.
Lori Tierfalt. Lydia Kaler. Danielle Erickson.
Rob Beavers.
Pat Rice.
Pat Rice.
Paul. Coverclock.
This is
Evans. Lydia Evans.
John Jackson.
Tom Dory.
Marilyn Fury Lehman.
Paul Andrews.
Jeff.
Jeff Passafarrell.
Hope Frederickson. Sharon Bradigan.
Daryl Bradigan.
Brad Larson. Mike Bobson.
Jim.
Jim Spann. Stephen Zandy.
Tim Eads.
Lori Naltella.
Lydia Rahman.
Steve Selstrom.
Everybody else, how come they let you sit there?
Tom Price. Sam Price.
John Cordes. Dusty Nelson.
Jack Beckman.
Tom Flowers. Sam Price Sr. Kevin Lauber, and I'd like to introduce Semi-Honorable George.
Neil Robbins.
Yes.
Mary Schiller.
Chuck D'Angelo.
Angelotti.
Richard Fessenden.
Bruce Golden. Captain Sirlock.
Mike Siri.
The Honorable Walter Dragg.
Never dressed better.
Remand in jail.
Andrew Krause.
Dave Stapleton.
John Tabor.
Gary Hoyt.
Grace Hanlon.
Lori Meffrey.
Eric Gregory. Paul Webb III, and I needed to say that Paul Webb Jr. Could not be here tonight, but he wanted me to express the fact that he was sorry that he couldn't be here. He had a trip that was planned, so he's out of town, but he was sorry that he couldn't make it.
Sure. His own restaurant.
Bill Foley's son. John Zarowski.
And apparently last, Dave Sidlon.
No, not last. Comes with Sandra.
They don't need a menu, they know it by heart. Bring two people.
Not at their age anymore. A couple more things, and they could bring out the salads if they would. I think maybe they're going to skip them. Sure. Up on the wall over here is a famous picture from 1945. Some of you don't know 45 as well as others. But VJ Day was celebrated in Times Square. That was J stand for Japanese. And V was victory. C stands for chicken, if that's on your list. On each of your tables is a card called an index card. And there's a sailor and there's a nurse in the picture. What I would like you to do at some time during your dinner is to put down who in this room you think could symbolize, and we're not looking for age or anything because there's going to be very few, who would symbolize the sailor and who would symbolize the nurse. And the winner, we have a nice gift for both winners, and we would get a picture of them in that pose to send to the Post Journal, the Observer, and the Kennebunkport News. There are a lot of great lawyers are really wonderful people. Winston Churchill said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And I think that stands true for almost everybody in this room. And don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seed that you plant. That is another thing that you all do. I don't think we've had this many attorneys in the room at the same time in a long time. We will have the contest. We'll have dinner now, have a good dinner, and afterwards we can talk. We would ask some of the honorees if they have a few short words and a few short words about them. Maybe Lucian would tell us a story or two.
Get art started now.
That would make it the dessert.
I was not going to be up here this evening. We're going to cut it short. I tried to do. And our budget wasn't too big, so I did find a speaker who was going to be our Toastmaster from Buffalo. He was a mime. And he hurt his wrist, so enjoy your dinner.
1943, in the Marine Corps. We were in the South Pacific. We came to the Canal Zone, and believe it or not, we stopped at Balboa. We're in the Marine Corps at that time. And we stopped for shore leave. And we were told, don't go in that area there. It's out of jurisdiction. So we went there. Don't forget, after 2 years in the jungle, we had to do something nice. Here's this bar. I see it right now. We walked to the beginning, the front of that bar, long, long bar. All these girls dressed in different costumes. Cowboys, Indians, some are dressed in all kinds of outlandish uniforms. And we stopped at the bar and had a drink. Those girls drank, but they were Blue Moon girls. They only drank pop. We paid for the whiskey and the other hard liquors. And sitting at the bar, you visualize 3 Marines sitting at this bar with all these girls, a whole line of them. This big, huge mirror. On the mirror was this big writing in Spanish. Now, you too young to remember years ago when they advertised pork chops with Bonami. They wrote with them on white Bonami. White, right? You remember, Judge. And here is across this bar, all the people writing Spanish. It's called Un Tosado de mi vida, which means a toast to life. And I didn't understand that much Spanish, but I said to one of the little girls, what's that mean up there? And she says it goes like this. Now everybody raise your glasses. Repeat after me. You too, girl. I take my disappointments. I add my pleasures up. I mix them all together. And I pour them in a cup. Then I take a toast to life. For such as it may be. And the only wish I have tonight. Is that you're here with me.
Applause for the young ladies. They haven't been lawyers for that long, so I'm sure the tally was honest. We have 2 winners, one male and one female. If it didn't come out the way we wanted, we would have changed it anyway. Where's our photographer? Is he still here this evening? Oh, he is here with us. By the way, if you don't know about the Robert Jackson Center in Jamestown, he will tell you about that. But we're starting in the north end because we got to get together our own Jackson Center, and he's going to help with the first donation. It'll be the Michael Jackson Center. You may have things about the Second World War. We're going to have Thriller. You may have Army boots. We are going to have Nikes. But the winner, I mean, this is very important. That picture is important. That was a very hard time in our country. And if you haven't been down to Washington to see the memorial for the Second World War, we did strange things about how the memorials were built down there, but it's very moving. And if in the Jamestown area, I'm sure if you can get, he was invited to come this evening, but I guess he wasn't in town writing a new book. I know that. Raleigh Kidder was on that war memorial, and he can tell you, give you a great history about the Second World War memorial. When we had a trip down there last year, he came to Washington and did it. He's a fount of knowledge. I don't know if he practiced law. But the winners, okay. Who was the nurse? I'm going to give you... No, I'm not going to make you clap and everything until we announce the winners. There are two winners. The nurse, and she's going to have to come up here, get her prize, and go over there and get her picture taken so that they can authenticate how it was done. Is Lydia Romer. Okay, Lydia, you gotta take the top button. There was no doubt about the second one. Philly, where's Philly?
I'm gonna speak for a couple minutes while Lydia freshens up and gets out of that dress.
Now I know why I don't.
Get out of those pants. I stuck to my chair, so it took me a while to go. Nancy called me just moments ago, and I said, honey, I don't think I'm going to be home tonight.
We have a room.
I've been subpoenaed to surrogate's court, and whatever happens, it's going to be non-pro-tum.
We gotta check into our room within 5 minutes. It's on the internet tonight.
Just so you know, tomorrow the Judicial Conduct Commission disbarred me. Not for my antics tonight, but for my association.
There was a reason Farrelletto just left.
Yes, thank God.
Phil, you forgot your...
You're gonna need it.
It's for the room, Phil.
Open the mic up, Peter.
We are going to do that. There will be dessert, but in order to keep things moving along, we're going to open the mic in a minute here to say a few words. You're probably wondering why I asked Tom to say the benediction aside. Oh, no, you said the blessing. Right? We didn't want you at the end. He asked me the other day, he said he travels a lot, and he often is in towns at night, and he's looking for a Catholic church to say a few words to God, but he can't find them because they have all these little signs, in the churches at night. So I gave him an instruction how you can find a Catholic church in any village, any town in this country where you are at night. Just look for the bingo sign. Sam Dreo just wanted to say he did sign up, and he had about 2.5 weeks ago, Sam had some bypass and had some heart surgery. And he thought he wanted to come. He wanted to make it here this evening. And recovery is doing fine, but he wanted to say hello to everybody. And he assured that you have an easement out there that will not pass his eyes. I'd like to open it now to say words either about or for. And before we get to that, I got to sit next to Dalton Burgett tonight. And I remember my son had a girlfriend years ago, and they used to babysit his house. And they said, "Look, Dalton has a beautiful home." And they said, he has a golf cart. And I said, "Well, that's nice. You know, you have a few acres, you need a golf cart to get around." And they said, "No, that's in the house." So, I think we should maybe hear from, I know everybody out there is shy, especially Lucian. Lucian, would you like to say a word or two? Knowledge of that surrogate's court. That's the quotes, okay?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be called on tonight, but in 1989, I practiced law with Lucian for 10 years, and I heard all these wonderful stories. And I'm going to ask Lucian to share one of my favorite stories. And that was the time that Lucian appeared in Peacemaker's Court, and Leetown Adams was on the other side. And I'm going to bring the microphone over to Lucian and ask him to tell the story.
Now, really, what happened is, good old Howard Crosley, who always was sharper than me, went down early in the day and made arrangements, instead of having the trial in the courtroom, that Ken Jocknocki, who was one of the three judges down there, and I went down to Salamanca, where the trial was supposed to be, and nobody's there, and finally some fellow comes up and he says, are you supposed to be here tonight for this trial? And I said, yes. He said, well, they're having it at Ken Jockney's house. I said, where's that? He told me. So I got my lady client, and what it was when they were coming through with the dam, and husband and wife were split, and she was the Indian, and they should have been entitled to the thing. But anyway, long story short, I'll make it very short. Howard goes down there, and he brings a couple of cases of beer and a couple of bottles of booze. So I walks into the parking lot, or the garage, to get into the house, and Howard greets me and he says, the case is over. I said, what do you mean the case is over? I just got here. He said, oh, we've taken care of it. Well, anyway, what happened? He got the three judges drunker than hell. And I walked in and they told me that the case was over, that the husband was going to get everything, so we had to appeal. But the great thing about the whole case was, I don't know if any of you guys remember, what was it, Gallagher over in Silver Creek?
Galloway,
Right? Galloway, that's right. Well, I got a hold of him, and he was a knowledgeable guy with the Indian law. And by God, on appeal, we got it taken care of, and we got the lady her just due. It was typical Howard Crosley. He got the guys drunker than hell, and the case was over.
He fought the Korean War, came back, went to law school. Dad, would you tell him about the first case with Grandpa and the train and the cows?
Well, the first case that I had, my dad said, I've been saving this one for you. I knew something was wrong. So I got a farmer that he had 3 cows, Holstein cows, that were killed by the train. And he said, get out to see this fellow, and he can tell you the story about the cows. So I went down to see him, and he said, the cows got through the fence because they weren't repairing the fence. And I said, well, I'll see what I can do with it. Well, I started looking into the law because I didn't know anything about it. I just got out of law school. And it was the New York Central Railroad, and the law requires the railroad to maintain the fences. And if they don't, it's absolute liability. So I told the guy, I said, we got a real good case here. I think we're going to be all right. I wrote a letter to the New York Central Railroad. Never heard a thing from him. surprised me too much. So then I decided we're going to sue him. Well, how are you going to sue the railroad? I didn't know. Started looking back in the books. Found out you can sue a station agent. Oh, we had a station agent in Frewsburg. So I prepared the summons and the complaint and went down and served the agent. And he was very upset because he's a friend of mine. And I said, don't worry about it. Just make sure you get it to your boss and he'll take care of it. Well, about 3 days before they would have been in default, I got a call from the chief counsel in Buffalo. And he said to me, what are those cows worth anyway? I said, they were purebred Holstein cows. They were worth about $300 a piece. That was in those days. And he said, oh, they aren't worth that much. I said, oh, yes, they are. And so we discussed it a little bit more, and he said, how about if I send you a check for $250 a piece? I said, that'd be fine. I think my client will take that, but I got to go talk to him first, and then I'll call you back. So I went down and talked to him, and he said, that's very good. He said, they probably were only worth $200 anyway. So he was happy, and I was happy that I settled a case, and that was my first case.
Mark Crosby, it was Lee Tom Adams who was down there. You all knew that.
They're interchangeable.
All right. First into court seminar, the program we put on told each of the bar members that the next thing coming down the road would be the Daubert case and the changes nationwide in qualifying expert witnesses. Without making a story of that, this has now come to pass. And what I'd like to say tonight, assuming it's the last time all of us at least, or some of us at least, will ever be together again, I'm saying tonight the next thing that's going to come down and visit upon every one of you, no matter how much federal practice you have or not, that is a thing called e-discovery. And what it amounts to is deposing and taking all the information that is stored in any form, please underline, any form of electronic perpetuation. For example, the notices now require you to turn over your, and you might say, well, isn't that all federal? It's just like expert witnesses. Yes, that's where it started, but that's not where it ended. It is already the most expensive part of litigation, way beyond discovery through depositions. And maybe just a lighthearted note, some of you will remember way back in the financial collapse days when banks have been allowed to become banks that loan money, stock players that invested banks' money, and eventually depositors' money. And the big raging conflict of interest was, how can we let banks do that, because there will always come a time when inside the same bank there will be a conflict between people selling stock and people making loans. And you remember that Citibank, the chairman of the board was Sanford Weill at the time, and the greatest stock picker in the country was on the stock selling desk. And remember the New York Times headlines where they kept denying that there was ever any connection, there was a Chinese wall between stock selling and lending, etc. Then came the famous outbreak where the words were Sandy, referring to Sandy Wilde. How long do I have to keep touting this POS of Enron before we can unload that? And of course, they wiped the computers and reconstructing, and it's going to happen again.
I'm going to tell you this story real quick. 1989, I'm a young lawyer. I'm sitting in the courtroom, Judge Ricotta is presiding. Art Bailey makes an argument. It's a mortgage foreclosure. By the time we're done, Arthur has the infantry approaching from the north, the cavalry coming from behind, the Air Force attacking from the left. And when we're done, I said to Judge Ricotta, Judge, what'd you think of that argument? He said, Tommy Muldowney, come on in, Tommy Muldowney. Come on into my courtroom. Tom comes in and says, would you transcribe that argument that Bailey just made? And I said, Judge Ricotta, why would you want to have that argument transcribed? He said, because I think Arthur was full of shit, but he sounded so good saying it.
Art, as you know, I'm leaving at this point in time, Art. And, now I know why I wasn't too upset by that. Art Bailey is the only person in the world who, in front of me, has ever accurately quoted both Bleak House and the Magna Carta in an argument. And I must say today that this is a complete circle. Art, the first time you did this 4 years ago, I didn't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. And God bless you, my friend, I still don't.
Hi. This isn't going to be funny, I hope. But I've been around for a while, and we've seen a change at the bar. Yeah, not you. You and I we have a lot of new lawyers, young lawyers who are starting in practice. But some of the lawyers who are here tonight, who were honorees, I miss you guys. I miss John. I miss Richard's already left. Oh, there you are, Richard.
Coffee and beer, Lydia, coffee and beer.
You were always good for regarding that like of an emergency. Right across the hall, you know. Dougie, my staff used to, whenever Lucian or Doug would call, they'd say, hi. And that's all they'd say, and my ladies would say, you gotta talk to Lydia, you gotta talk. They were terrified to talk to either one of them. And I miss you guys, I really do. And since this is a time to honor you, Judge DeRossi, all of you, I just wanted to say, without too much entertainment involved, that you ought to come back once in a while and see us. Particularly, I mean, I understand, Doug, you're on the golf course, you're in St. Hyman's, I mean, you know, you have a lot of things on your mind, but come say hello once in a while. Some of us, you know, have been there, but I have to say one thing, and this is directed to my two surrogates. My first surrogate, Judge Willard Cask, and my second surrogate, Judge Stephen Cask. I miss Judge Willard. I love your son. And
Jealous, Phil?
yeah, and Phil is totally, yeah. But I just wanted to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Arthur and Willard and Leishan, and I mean, I'm not going to name all of you, but I also want to say thank you to Stephen, who I think has been a worthy successor, and I don't know, I can't tell a joke, I haven't had enough to drink.
I just want to intervene here for a moment because I know it's past Peter Clark's bedtime, so he needs to doze off for a little while. I think it'd be a good idea to maybe pass the mic around to all the different honorees tonight and just let them say a few words about their thoughts, if they'd like to. If they don't want to, that's fine. But let's start.
And by the way, I have
I got a whole thing here. All right. This was voted the best joke of 2012. A fleeing Taliban desperate for water was plodding through the Afghan desert when he saw something far off in the distance. Hoping to find water, he hurried to the oasis, only to find a little old Jewish man, not you, Kim, at a small stand selling ties. The Taliban asked, "Do you have water?" The Jewish man replied, "I have no water. Would you like to buy a tie? They are only $5. And the Taliban shouted, "You idiot. I don't need any overpriced tie. I need water. I should kill you, but I must find water first." "Okay," said the old Jewish man, "it does not matter that you don't want to buy a tie and that you hate me. I will show you that I'm bigger than that. If you continue over that hill to the east for about 2 miles, you'll find a lovely restaurant. It has all the ice-cold water you need. Shalom." Cursing, the Taliban staggered away over the hill. Several hours later, he staggered back, almost dead, and said, "Your fucking brother won't let me in without a tie." Listen, I just want to say this was wonderful. Dale and Peter and everybody who was involved did a wonderful job. And you know, since I came here started 45 years ago, I guess it is, really, I don't remember a joint bar. There was a couple attempts to have a joint bar north and the Jamestown bar merge. I hope it works out someday, at least with respect to having an annual dinner like this, don't you?
Back into the 1960s, when we used to have a town club upstairs, we used to meet monthly. And I know that as time went on, everybody got busy, and we don't meet as much as we used to. But we used to have wonderful camaraderie, and we were very, very close. All of the bar associations. Sam Price here was part of that. We had some very good times, but this is a totally exceptional one. I thank everybody, Peter and Dale. Wonderful time. Thanks.
One of our other older members talked about his first case, and I remember my first trial. I was working under our Bailey, and there were dogs. And the arbiter said, "Warren, I've got a case for you." And I took it as a criminal case, and I went over to the courtroom after the preliminary procedures are done. And I hesitated before I stayed in the courtroom. And finally, I left the courtroom. And at a certain point, my friend Joe Gerasi came out, and he said, "Warren, go on in. They've called your case." Now, I had stayed outside because I was so new, I didn't know which desk I was supposed to stand at. Thanks, Joe.
My wife will hate me for this confession, but when I was Commissioner of Agriculture, I was asked to go up to North Country to dedicate a drainage ditch, which drained about 1,000 acres of land that were underwater each year and really couldn't be cultivated by the farmers. And so we were up there to dedicate the ditch, and we went out to the field, and the only place to speak from was manure spreader. And so we politicians got on the manure spreader, and I was asked to speak as Commissioner of Agriculture. And I said, you know, I've been in politics a long time, but this is the first time I've ever spoken from a Republican platform. Well, wait a minute. A farmer in the back row shouted out, well, put her in high gear, Commissioner. She's never had a bigger load. So with that, I want to move quickly to one of the last trials over which I presided as Supreme Court judge. And in that trial, believe it or not, were two other old guys. One was Tony Spann, as plaintiff's attorney, and the other was Bill Duncanson. And I announced to the jury that they were going to be exposed to a jury trial with the three oldest lawyers in Chicago County. And you can imagine, that was about 10 years ago, and how old are we now? But I just want to end by thanking you folks for setting this up. We just love to have lawyers from the north and the south to get together. Peter, I enjoy those witticisms of yours, and I'll remember them for a long time. One of the reasons we did establish the Inns of Court to have about 4 meetings a year was just to bring lawyers together with judges so that we could break bread together. Because the first time I ever appeared in the courtroom was the first time that I ever got to meet a judge. And so the Inn of Court is a way for young lawyers and older.
I thought I'd introduce myself. My name's Ron Malin. Many of you have met me. Most of my practice was out of town. Somebody said I was a good lawyer because I never took a real estate deal from anybody. And I bought a lot of money back in Chicago. One of the funniest cases I had, by the way, I practiced before the ICC, the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, New York State Department of Transportation, and yes, one time I got a Pennsylvania milk license in New York State over our Department of Agriculture's dead body. But anyway, one of the funniest cases I had was in Rochester. The judge was from Albany. There was no lawyers that was from Rochester. We all went there. We were going to try to get 6 witnesses on the stand in one day so that we all smoked. The judge says, we're not going to take any breaks. We can all smoke. So we smoked. Clouds came out of the building. What we didn't know was 2 days earlier, Monroe County had passed an anti-smoking ordinance for public buildings. Thank you.
Our meeting, I think.
Yeah!
1970, I want to thank you all. When I first came to town, I needed some advice on how to buy my own home. The guys in the firm said you ought to talk to somebody else. I called, I think it was Lucian. I said, how much would it cost me to ask you 3 simple questions about real estate? He said, $1,000. I said, isn't that a lot? He goes, what's your third question?
First thing I want to say is, Tony, I hope I'm half as sharp as you are for whatever days I have left. I just want to say it's a little more than 33 years ago I moved down to Chautauqua County from Buffalo. As you all, most of you know, I was with a large firm in Buffalo. It was quite a change. I was very concerned about how I'd be accepted and perceived. by the attorneys in Chautauqua County, both north and south. As I sit here today, by the way, the firm said to me, we want you to go for 3 or 5 years. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because if I don't like it, I want to come back. And if I do like it, I want to stay longer. And you have all been, over the years, so accepting, especially in the early years. You're a great bunch of people. I've enjoyed it tremendously. Committing to Chautauqua County and living in Chautauqua County, raising my kids in Chautauqua County, been the smartest thing I've done in my life.
If anyone told you that I requested a transfer, they are simply incorrect. It has been a pleasure for the 4 years working here. Judge Gerasi, I can't thank you enough for the help you've been so kind to give us. Although I have to admit, as an attorney who's the son of an attorney, anyone practicing law for free like you did for the 2 years, it gets my stomach. I mean, if they knew how much we liked being judges and how little money we take for doing it, I'm just terrified they'll all figure it out. There really is, in addition to, there's something intoxicating every stand-up as I walk in. I mean, you got to see the look, and my sisters have only been, my 6 sisters have only been in my courtroom for the swearing in. And you got to see the look on their face when everybody walks up. Everybody stands up when I walk in, and they're looking around going, don't you guys know who this idiot is? In fact, I remember the bar, Kathy Krauser, her staff, thank you. Judge Ward, Judge Cass, your staffs, thank you. I couldn't think of a better place to have been for the last 4 years. And I certainly hope this is not goodbye, but just see you later. If available, I'm willing to come back at any point in time. I really am.
Now I know why you're up there, Peter. And I thank you for all those years. I really do. And I want to thank all my brethren here for the cooperation and spirit that we've had between each other. I think it's been great, and I thank you, and especially Jimmy Spann, one of the latecomers. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm very happy with my practice and my experience, and I express my appreciation to everybody. Thank you.
My only story that comes to mind that I can tell is I do a fair amount of real estate practice. And this particular case was my most interesting real estate closing that I ever had. A little lady lived across the street from my office, was crippled. She owned a house out on Swede Road in the town of Portland, and she was going to sell it. And the purchaser was Sam Cambria, who lived on Swede Road and had a farm out there. And the first thing we had to do was the survey. And of course, the line went down the middle of the barn. So, in the meantime, I'm trying to work out a boundary line agreement with the neighbor farmer, and one of his cows got out and went into Mr. Cambria's garden, at which point he seized the cow and would not return it. So I'm trying to get this matter closed. There's no water, there's no sewer in this house, and she needs the money really bad. So I talked to the farmer and said, what do I have to do to get this boundary line agreement? I know you two aren't getting along, but I really need to get this boundary line agreement so this little old lady can sell her house. And his response was, you gotta tear down the rabbit hutch, which was on the line next to the barn where we had to have the boundary line agreement so we could own half of the barn. So I picked up my hammer and tongs and went out and tore the rabbit hutch down. And my fee for this wonderful transaction was $75.
What, no money? His son, Kevin Ricardo, still talks about it.
But going back over all the years and being in the DA's office, I think I was the only assistant district attorney that served 34 years. I had maximum time, and I enjoyed it. During that period of time, the main things in the early years is when we went out and had trials in the kitchens of farmhouses, in the back part of the milking parlors in Ripley. We saw many, many snowstorms running all the way from Villanova to French Creek, and we traveled as a trio, myself, Don Muldowney, and His Honor Judge Lee Town Adams before he practiced law. And, before he did the job. Boy, that was I'm not going to, but I'm going to say it. All right, I'm going to tell it. We would, because some of the trials would last maybe until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, and it became the thing that we would disappear afterwards and find a bar to have a bottle of beer, the three of us. And Tom and I would buy the beer, until we got to the town of South Dayton. And all of a sudden, all the beers we wanted would come at that particular night. And